How about another joke, Murray?
I think we've had enough of your jokes.
What do you get
I don't think so.
when you cross
I think
a
we're
mentally
done
ill
with your
loner
jokes.
with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash?
The police.
I'll tell you what you get.
Call the police.
You get what you fucking deserve.
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do. People are starting to notice.
The whole fucking city's on fire because of what you did.
I know. Isn't it beautiful?
The 2019 movie Joker garnered both acclaim and concerns from a wide range of viewers and critics. Based on the aggregate ratings of critic scores, the movie sure seems controversial. However, ratings of the viewers do, almost unambiguously, imply that the Joker is a cinematic masterpiece. Either way, there's no denying that the impact the movie makes about mental health and societal dysfunction would be huge or everlasting. The movie ventures into depicting the nature of many mental illnesses in a dark world, and its representation thereof is nothing short of great in my books. However, I've also noticed something that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker embodies so well. It's something that lies on the thin line dividing norm and deviance. For me, the final iteration of the Joker's personality does not only represent mental illness, but also a very sinister side of the unfettered human psyche. I suppose this can be well explained with reference to the basics of the psyche model introduced by the world-renowned psychologist Sigmund Freud. But before going any further, I would like to ask you to subscribe to Growth Journey, the journey of life. The journey of life.
You serious?
Id, ego, and superego are three distinct agents which make up the psyche of an individual. These agents were first defined by the renowned psychologist Sigmund Freud. According to Freud, the thought flow of an individual is a result of the interaction between these three agents. Consciousness is initiated by id, which comprises of base instincts of the human condition. The ego bridges the stream of consciousness created by id with the superego, which is the critical faculty which evaluates and reforms a thought process through rationalization and moralization. These three agents are purely psychological concepts and do not correspond to actual physiological features of the brain. The id is said to be the most base part of the human psyche. It encompasses raw emotions, impulses, and instincts of the human condition. Instinctual drives such as lust and aggression are formed in the id. The id exists in a person often in the same state since birth. The ego is a more higher-level component of the concept of the human psyche. It reconciles the conscious arising from id with the conditions outlined by the superego. It actively does reasoning and engages in other rational processes to reform a person's raw conscious based on the requirements of the superego. The superego is the topmost level component of the human psyche in Freudian psychology. It sets moral, rational, and other standards to which an ego should adjust a particular consciousness to. As opined by Freud, the superego is often a byproduct of the social or cultural conditioning of an individual. It is the embodiment of the internalization of cultural norms in an individual. It is evident that an average human with a sound mental health is able to act on his thoughts in a more civil and restrained manner. This could be argued as an example of the three psychic agents functioning well. The movie begins with Arthur Fleck, despite his mental illnesses caused by previous trauma, doing his best to fit his demeanor to prevalent social norms in the environment, which is Gotham City, that he lives in. He was, at most times, an average city dweller as far as norms and beliefs of the people of Gotham were concerned. He had gone through episodes of rage and sadness due to various injustices, mishaps, and failures that he has encountered, but manages to cope them without venting his reactions, causing harm to others. This would imply that the agent's ego and superego were functioning on high gear to suppress the id from materializing its outburst of insanity. Arthur was considerate of what people in Gotham thought. He was narcissistic, as he was constantly trying to look normal in order to be more accepted by people. In his notebook, he writes that society expects people having mental illnesses to pretend that they do not have them, and thereafter proceeds to conceal symptoms of his illnesses and pursue a career as a comedian. Arthur's psyche had a semblance of a workable interaction between the Freudian psychic agents. His ego was able to transform the instinctively driven impulsive consciousness, which arose from id, into a more rational and moral one based on the demands of the superego. This was possible arguably due to his ego defense mechanisms working on high gear. According to Freudian psychology, an individual utilizes defense mechanisms to prevent an individual being overwhelmed by id and superego or feelings such as guilt and anxiety. The subject of ego defense mechanisms have been expanded ever since it was first introduced by Sigmund Freud, and now it elaborates many types of defenses. As the story progresses, Arthur's ability to suppress his mental illnesses begins to recede. This causes him to act abruptly, purely involuntarily at some times. His impulsive nature begins to show. He vents the frustrations that arise from bullying, shaming, harassment, and finally, his mental illnesses, actively rather than passively, as shown earlier in the movie. This is a sign of the deterioration of the superego as well as the ego's lose of restraint over id. As Arthur begins to lose faith in humanity, he loses interest in everything that makes a society or a community from spiraling into anarchy and chaos. This includes the moral fabric, regardless of its state, of the community that he lives in and the respect for authority and the status quo. The ego's failure to reconcile id and the superego becomes more apparent as Arthur becomes more indifferent towards everything that was once supposed to mean something to him. This includes his job as a comedian, his worries over how people perceive him, and even the current political crisis that is growing in the city. It's arguable that the climactic phase of the development of the character, Joker, begins with the shocking truth Arthur discovers after reading about his mother's clinical records. In an episode of unchecked rage, fueled by an overwhelming feeling of betrayal, Arthur destroys the only person he lived for, and the only person who had genuinely cared about him. Embracing nihilism and shedding almost every sense of morality and common good, Arthur begins to tread on a dark pathway of humanity. His reigns over his demons have vanquished. The moment in which he proceeds to shoot a TV talk show host in front of many people can be regarded as the culmination of the id's unfettered manifestation in his psyche. All the basest of instinctual drives of the human condition operate unchecked and unadulterated within his mind. The entire content of this video represents one of my observations on explaining a man spiraling into insanity using a renowned model in psychology. I should disclaim that I am no professional in this field. My knowledge on the matter is elementary. I'm just an individual who's interested in learning about these themes and subjects. The bulk of the content of this video is about explaining the changes in the psyche of Arthur, which finally transforms him into the Joker. There are many other content in this movie which serve as an incisive commentary on mental health and how the activities of various segments in society have a profound impact on it. My observation is that the primary focus of the subtext of this movie is not hating society for being indifferent or brutal. It's about realizing how subtly mental illnesses manifest in a person's psyche. As for many things in life, I have no coherent answer to this. However, I believe the world is certainly doing better than before to tackle the issue of mental illness profoundly. I could only hope that, for the betterment of mankind, mental health issues are dealt with more compassionately, such that individuals of the like of Arthur Fleck would do well in life. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me keep creating more videos, and it means the world to me. Thanks for being part of the journey.